sport is a really good thing to look at for children, because you can take sport and you can do it in another job. You don't have to do it in a sports thing. You could be in an office and you still have that mindset. You still have to work as a team. You still have to socialise. You still have to use your psychological skills. You still need to use your technical skills. So I think sport's a really good one where you can take those skills and you can go off and do it in different jobs.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited to interview today somebody that I met a couple of months ago, and I knew straight away when I met him was a really inspiring person. Beyond that, he's a really inspiring and engaging teacher. Alex Savage has been teaching for over 10 years in primary school and coaching school sport. He is an advocate of promoting lifelong learning through physical education, and he has some fascinating insights on how to use cross-curricular learning within PE to translate to the wider curriculum. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, welcome to the show, Alex Savage. Okay, welcome to the show, Alex. First of all, I just want to honour you and thank you and appreciate you for coming down and for being on the show. You are one of the first guests on the show, and we're going to kick it off for a fantastic 2019. And I'm really keen for Alex, and I'm looking forward to sharing getting Alex's thoughts on education, leadership, inspiration, and how he goes about inspiring and engaging his pupils in his schools, and also just to get a general context around what your thoughts and your experiences on education, because I know that there's going to be fantastic insights coming from you, and I'm really looking forward to kicking the show off. So, Alex.
Thank you, Jazz. Brilliant to be here. It's a pleasure. And I look forward to getting started and get ready for the show. Brilliant.
Fantastic. So let's start off with some quick fire questions then, just to get us warmed up and get us into the spirit of the show. So tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the following words. Ready?
Yep.
Family.
It's very supportive.
School.
Good question. School, engaging community.
Leadership.
Leading from the front and getting everyone involved in what you're doing.
Parenting.
Making sure someone is focused and in line with what you want them to achieve.
Art.
Drawings, pictures,
Sculptures, even graffiti, but in a good way.
Maths.
Numbers, shapes, algebra, logistics.
Learning.
Working, thinking, using different skills.
Culture.
Having a sense of community, sense of having something that's yours and what you want to sort of achieve in that.
People.
Humans. Yeah, humans. I don't know what else to say with people.
And legacy,
leaving something behind that is memorable, that you can look back on and have a sense of achievement.
Alex.
Good all-round person, role model, and wears nice clothes.
Absolutely love it. That is a fly coat as well.
It is new one.
For sure,
Christmas.
I like it. So take us on a journey then, Alex. Tell us where it started for you. Tell us about where you went to school and what your experience was like when you were in primary school. Let's start from there.
Yeah, so I sort of growing up in the 90s, and then going to school within the late 90s, early 2000s. And went to primary school. I was lucky enough actually, only 2 minutes up the road from me for primary school. A really good setting there, really good togetherness. It was a very big school as well, so we had a fantastic field that we could play on, nice big playground, all the teachers very supportive, and I think as a year group we're growing up with each other throughout the whole years. So we even stay in touch now, some of our primary school people there, and I think that's a real big impact as well. And when in secondary school, same thing. People that in secondary school, you can still grow up with them now. Look back on different memories that you used to do when you get up into school, all the good things, maybe not such good things, but together it's all these good memories as well. So that's really good.
Fantastic. So when you were in school, Alex, how would your teachers have described you?
I'd say very hardworking, very positive, almost like a role model in some ways, and like very committed to doing work. I was quite sporty as well, so I belonged to some of the sports teams. So I had the football team, the cross country team I remember in primary school, and like we used to have like our borough athletics as well. That was really fun, and I was part of that as well.
Fantastic. So you were described as sporty, encouraging,
encouraging.
Sound like quite a team player.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's sort of what I've grown up with, and that sort of led me to sort of what I'm doing sort of today as well.
You mentioned that a lot of the people in your school you're still in contact with today and you're still quite close with. Do you think the fact that you were quite a team player and that you were quite sporty has contributed to that or not?
In some ways it can. I think sort of the people that I might talk to now were in a very similar situation with me, so they was very similar in terms of like they're very sporty, sort of belong to different sports teams, and they were sort of very confident as well. But then even people that maybe weren't exactly the same I still talk to now. I think that's what the power was with social media, I think as well, that's happened now. I think before, you know, when that wasn't around, it's very difficult to always stay in contact with people. Sure. But I think having that now at the forefront sort of allows you to interact with people that you knew before and get to keep in contact really.
You mentioned that you went to quite a big school. What would you say to parents, and how do people go about deciding whether to send their child to a larger school or a smaller school? What do you think the differences are? Because obviously you work in a number of different schools now, you've worked in different schools, small and large. How do you think it affects kind of the community and how children think and how they develop?
Yeah, brilliant. So I don't think it matters too much about the size. I think it just matters about sort of how the school's ethos goes about. I think that's really key, because that really decides, what the school's about, what they want to achieve, what they want to have the pupils achieve. And I think that's really important. I think I've worked in like a one form entry school before, and I can definitely tell that that's a very big community, and I think there's a lot more work where you can work with more of those individuals a lot more. I think the teachers are able to learn children's names a lot quicker and get to know them a lot quicker, especially if, even if there's a year 3 teacher who knows all her children, but then all knows the year 6 children as well. And I think that's really key, is having knowing the whole school. I think because sometimes you're going to end up teaching at some point. Yeah. It's good to know straight away. I think with like a larger school, again, same thing. Some teachers will know some other children's names. Obviously, it's a lot more difficult. But with myself, because I'm teaching PE, I get to teach all the children. So I get to get that sense of, getting to know year 3 children, get to know year 6, get to know year 1s, get to know year 4s. So I think that's a really good thing. I don't really think it matters if it's a big school or a large school. I think, I'd say with parents, it's all about what the school's values are, what the ethos is. Sometimes it might depend on where their friends' children are going. That sometimes takes an impact. Or it might be, is it a local school? So they'd rather go to a local school and having to travel too far away. I think sometimes certain parents might take their child out of one school because they know that another school is either closer or it's more geared towards their child's learning as opposed to another school. And it's not a fault on the other schools, it's just what could they do specifically for their child that maybe the school isn't doing as much of, but there's other reasons why that might not be the case. So
for sure.
That's good.
I think one of the key things that you said there was about values and how that impacts sort of the school ethos and environment and how children learn. I want to get straight into it because that's a very, very important point, and you're now working in a new school that has their own set of values, which we spoke about in the pre-chat, and I just wanted you to touch on that and how that impacts the learning environment for the kids.
Yeah, definitely. So with the school I'm working at now, the 3 values they're looking at, so trust, looking at respect, looking at fairness, and I think they're 3 really key things within a school. And I think sometimes some schools might overplay their values a little bit, and they go into like 5 or 6 different values, and I think sometimes that's quite difficult for sort of every child to remember. And I think having 3, children start to remember those 3, and I think that's, like I say, it's the magic number with 3. And obviously with trust, respect and fairness, it's bordered around the whole school. It's on display boards, it's on like big boards outside of the school, like around the school, and it really hammers home, we want children to be trustworthy, so we want them to, can we trust them to work together? Or could it be fairness? Okay, can you let one child go before you do? And then just respecting as well. So just respecting people's views, opinions, and just respecting their answers and their ideas. And I think that's a really good thing for children to start to do, because it really starts to develop them as a person. And I think they're not just 3 values on the board or anything like that. They really are embedded within the school culture. So those words will be spoken about, hundreds of times a day, through teachers and pupils. And I think that's when children start to pick up on that, and they start to really learn those key values, especially within the school, especially at home, especially outside of school when they're doing like sports clubs or different activities. And I think that's something that they can take on to later life, really.
And just hinging on that, as a PE specialist teacher, what values do you instill with your pupils, and what is the sort of environment that you're trying to create when you educate children?
Yeah, definitely. I think first of all, the environment is a welcoming environment. You want children to feel very at ease in PE. I think sometimes when you look at PE, there's this whole massive mindset that it's push-ups or sit-ups, or it's not fun, or we're just going to kick a ball around and I'm just going to watch. And like sometimes some people are quite dominant at some sports, and some people shy away from it a little bit. So it's really just about bringing that ethos of, right, PE is for everyone, the same as if it was doing maths, same if you're doing English or science or history or art, it's all the same. And yeah, really embedding in, right, it's fun, it's engaging. There's loads of differentiation as well. I think that's differentiation within our lessons, because like I say, with PE, you've got various abilities, but to make it so PE is for everyone, having different challenges for certain children to try and achieve, having these different things going on, I think that's really important. I think that's how we can make PE a fun and engaging subject as a part of, right, it's just sport. Because I think that sometimes can be where some people's mindsets are at, especially with parents. I think there is a clear difference between sport and PE. And if you break down PE, it's physical education. So it brings the education side of thing. It's physical, but it brings social aspects to it. It brings technical skills that we're learning. So it brings psychological skills, tactical skills. So it's such a big thing. And I think it's really hammering home that this is physical education. This is about providing education for the children, developing their skills. And then with school sport, it's then developing, aside of competitiveness, it decides, all right, how do we represent ourselves as a school when we go and do events, again, other venues or other schools as well. And some children will flourish at school sports. And it's important that everyone has the opportunity to still take part in school sport, even if it's competitive, because it's really important that people start to understand, like, how do we play as a team? How do we work as a team? Because certain times where I'll be in schools, we'll be playing little games, and some children will be arguing about, this person didn't know this rule, this person didn't know this rule. So it's really important to, like, right, can we work together? What can we do? So then it kind of goes back to those values about trusting and being fair and respecting. Because I think those 3 values, even if it's a school thing, it's still within PE.
Yeah.
It's still within sport, and I think sport is a really good thing to look at for children, because you can take sport and you can do it in another job. You don't have to do it in a sports thing. You could be in an office and, you still have that mindset. You still have to work as a team. You still have to socialise. You still have to use your psychological skills. You still need to use the technical skills. So I think sport's a really good one where you can take those skills and you can go off and do it in different jobs. I think we bring back to physical education again. I have some children saying, when we're doing our lesson the other day, I want to break it down a little bit. So I wanted to go into thinking about, why are we jumping off vaults? Okay, what are the skills to be able to do that when we're jumping off different apparatus? So actually writing down, those key skills that we're learning. How do you do a jump? What are the technical skills? And some children are saying, well, why are we doing English? Why are we doing English? Well, it's not English. You're still, it's cross-curricular. I think with PE. And I think PE is probably one of the only subjects where you're literally learning every subject, because you can learn writing skills in PE. You can learn math skills. You know, you can learn so much, and like history, like the history of sport could be involved. So you've got so many different subjects all into one.
Break this down, because you're a PE specialist. I've been a PE specialist, so I think you and I know what this narrative is about how PE is involved in absolutely everything.
Yeah, definitely.
And what people might not understand, because you mentioned something quite powerful, which is that people perceive it as just doing push-ups or just doing fitness or whatever it might be, whereas it's so much broader than that.
Yeah.
How do you break that down for the audience to say, how does PE actually feed into the wider curriculum? How can it be cross-curricular in that sense?
Definitely. I think I've worked in schools before where, you know, using that physical education, it's actually helped children's mindset. And I think doing different activities actually starts to engage them in other subjects, because then they're actually healthy now, their mind's healthy, so that, right, we can do our maths work now. You know, I'm engaged, I'm concentrating, I can do my English, I can do my science. And then sometimes they can actually, you know, we might be doing something in PE where we're doing some counting stuff, like working on that, and then actually that's helped them with their maths work. Or, you know, if I'm asking, right, okay, so we're doing a warm-up game, all right, can you get into groups of 3? So then children are understanding, okay, how do I get into a group of 3? Or how do I get into a group of 4? Or I might do something a bit more technical. Can you get into into a group that is in the 4 times table? So they're now starting to think about all the numbers that are in the 4 times table that they can do. So that's sort of how it can impact where it's children thinking. Sometimes in the classroom, they might try to do the 4 times table, but they're not quite getting it because they're not that sort of learner where they're right down, but someone can do something physical and they'll get it, and they can get into like someone that's in a 4 times table, for example. So that kind of works that way.
You're bringing a lot of context to it, and you're bringing that learning.
Yeah, there's a lot of thinking behind it, but then at the same time, it's quite a simple thing as well. I think it's just little bits.
It's very powerful what you said in terms of how it links into mindset as well, and how children think outside of PE and outside of school. Because one of the things for me, when I'll always remember how my mindset was when I was in secondary school, and people used to think I was crazy, but I used to love it because I used to go to school, I used to come home, eat food, go to football training, get back at 8:30, 9 o'clock, do an hour of study, and then go to sleep at 10 o'clock and wake up, do an extra hour before school started, because I knew that I wanted to do like at least 2 hours of study every day. So basically I'll go home and I'll do 2 hours of study every day, and I'll do 2 hours of football on the days that I had football training. And that for me was an ongoing cycle. And when people think, oh, but you must have been so tired, I'm like, no, I wasn't tired, because most of the time people think that they need rest, where actually they need recovery, and the recovery can come in just different forms. So if I was playing football for 2 hours or doing sport for 2 hours, my recovery was then writing an English essay or whatever it is, and that's impacting how my creative energy flows. And it just made sure that I was always energized and I always had energy. And that's the same today in terms of how I become a leader and how I'm running a successful organization and so on. It's always shifting what I'm doing, as opposed to going, I just need to sit here and rest and do nothing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really good, because when you're, like say, when you refer back to doing your English homework and then doing your football, I think, like say, you can get more creative ideas once your body is moving more.
Absolutely.
And I think if you're just standing still, like, how are you going to think about doing creative writing? Because that sometimes could be, you know, if you're going out and you're doing sport and that, they're the ideas you can bring. Look at your environment that you're in. You could bring ideas of what you're seeing into your work. I think that's really important.
I wish I did a study when I was a kid, and I'm sure there's studies out there now. I wish I did a study of me coming home from a 8-hour school day, or however long the school day is, going straight into writing an English essay or doing some sort of cognitive work in that respect, and then going to football training, versus going to football training, then coming back and doing my English homework or science homework or maths homework or whatever it is. Because what I found and what I experienced was that I was so much sharper when I had done physical activity. And certain times my parents or whatever would be like, okay, so you need to go and study now. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and play football first, or I'm going to go and jog around the block, and then I'm going to come back and do it. And people thought that, people didn't quite get it, but I've always been that way. Even now, when I'm feeling tired, I just go and run or I just go to the gym.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you come back from work or you come back from school, I think you're already that mindset, you've just done work. So you need that little break, that little active energy hour to then go do the next bit. I think that's really important when you talk about staff as well. I think, especially the well-being. I think like having where I've worked before, I worked in like a college, and also with the college there's a lot of work with a lot of staff they had to do. We used to do like fun like staff activities, so like it'd be like a day after school where we'd do some like fitness with them, but in a fun way, so that we'll be doing some engaging stuff there just to get their mind focused and just having that sort of togetherness, and then just getting their body and their mind focused, and then they can then go in and do their marking and things like that where they can actually get that energy to do it. And I think that's really important. With a lot of I don't think they do it as much maybe in secondary and primary schools, because I think there's a lot more constraints, a lot more marking within those schools, a lot more having to plan and things like that. And I think if we set aside time for staff to go and do these activities and then go carry on doing their marking, so I think a lot of them, they're thinking, right, we've got to do this marking, we've got to get this done because of the constraints of the school and because of the pressure they're under to get this done. And I think in primary school, like, they need to have that much pressure. I don't think they need to. And I think we need to have that time where we can mark, but then we need that time to have that active rest, the that recovery period, really. I think that's what we need.
What's the purpose of primary school, in your opinion?
To start getting the skills needed for later life. I think that's the first time I think children learn straight away when they're born. You know, you think you're learning, you see some babies that they're like looking and they're starting to look at their surroundings, and I think then when they get older and older and older, then you start to learn the skills necessary for life. So the social skills, writing skills, sport specific skills. So I think going with the sport specific skills, different types of movements. I think that's really important, because when you're walking in London, especially, you've got all the busy streets, so you're constantly moving in and out of people. And I think if you're learning how to move like that in primary school, you start to pick that up and you start to develop those movement skills in later life. So it does, it does help you. Everything you learn in primary school goes to secondary school, goes to college, goes to university, goes to work. Everything just gets learned in primary school. And that basis, that foundation phase, we can start to pick up the skills necessary, and then you start to really apply them when you're in later life as well. So I think that's where you need to really hit home as well, as those skills in primary school.
Talking about that application, and I know you touched on this before, how do people use skills that they've learned in PE, such as teamwork? How does that transfer into an office environment?
Good question. Yes, so I think, if we're learning team games, if we're learning how to communicate, for example, you're using communication every day. And I think if you're working in an office, you're constantly communicating to people in the office. You're finding ways of how to approach them. You're finding ways, how to talk to them. So you listen skills, verbal skills, eye contact skills. And if you're on the phone as well, you're learning how to communicate properly there, aren't you, as well? So you start to pick up how to apply your communication more when you're getting older. And I think if you're learning it in PE, because especially I think PE is like one of the most social subjects that you can have, really. And I think PE really helps with your day-to-day life. Right now we're communicating, so it's working for those skills.
Yeah, and it's fascinating in regards to what you mentioned about differentiation earlier, because PE is one of those subjects that you can see all of the differentiation at a glance, whereas in other subjects, classroom subjects, mostly you won't be able to see where Johnny's at or where Sarah's at until you actually go over and inspect. Yeah, definitely. Whereas PE, as a PE teacher, you can peripherally see it all, and you can see it very, very, very visibly.
Definitely. I think that's good, but sometimes if you're looking at within a PE lesson, it can be, I'll say, organised chaos, because you can see everyone's on task, but then you've got a low ability group, you've got a middle group, and then you've got your higher group. I think sometimes your higher group, they can go on, they can do their challenges and things like that. You got your low ability group, so you know, okay, right, let's make this a little bit easier. How can we do some basic stuff for you guys? And I think it's the middle group as well that sometimes can be quite tough, because again, you're not quite sure, are they edging towards higher or are they edging towards the lower group? And I think it's interesting to see them and sort of see where they're at. So for example, like say we're doing gymnastics at the moment in our schools. So we get to higher, you've got the higher group that are doing really well, jumping off vaults and springboards, and you've got the low ability group that are sort of just jumping from the mats. Then you've got the middle group, okay, well, can they try jumping off the higher, or can they do the lower? And it's really interesting to see their skills, and it's harder to tell with them because you're really looking, can they jump properly or can they not? So you sort of have to give them certain challenges to sort of see where they're at. And then sometimes, it's quite difficult to always see where the differentiation are. I think in the classroom, like I say, you have to go over and inspect.
Sure.
But I think you can kind of help them more. Because like when you go to someone in the classroom, everyone's still on task, but you can go around and it's quite a calmness.
Sure.
Whereas physical education, like I say, it's that organised chaos. So sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint. So sometimes what I do is I will get children to observe themselves.
Wow.
And I'll get them to partner up with someone and then have a look at, right, so if we're doing a straight jump, okay, here's the teaching points for a straight jump for gymnastics, okay. Are you seeing your partner doing these things? If not, how can we support them? How can we give them the opportunity to do that? And we'll show videos on YouTube about how to do different jumps and different things like that. Yeah. So I think that really starts to differentiate as well, because there'll be challenges that I can set. I can give the higher group these challenges straight away, so I know they can go off and do it.
Yeah.
And then, so I think that's really important, is having children to observe themselves. And I think that's what I also want to get at a little bit more of, is the reason why I wanted to do that is so that they understand where they are in terms of their learning. Because I think I can easily tell someone, right, this person's this person that, but I want them to really understand where they are with their learning. I think that's really important.
And their reflection on their own.
Yeah, definitely, because then they can work on to see what they need to improve on. Okay, what can I do next time? So I think that's really important.
How did you get into teaching?
So I started coaching football when I was 15 years old. I sort of knew some people that used to teach me when I was a young child, and I really wanted to get into that just because I wanted to showcase my skills within sport. I think I've always been that sort of sporty person, and I think showing what I've learned before from teachers and coaches, I want to then give to the next people that are coming up. Working since I was 15 and coaching, started just volunteering, just sort of doing some like coaching projects that I was on, and eventually became qualified about a couple of years later. And then sort of developed my coaching skills within other sports. So have football qualifications I did basketball, did badminton, did handball. There's a sport called korfball as well. I don't know if you've heard of korfball, which is kind of like a cross between netball and basketball, but it originated in Holland, and it's been sort of brought over here. So a lot of different areas now, especially Harrow, have actually got quite a good team that they have a korfball team over there. So got qualified in that, and that was then brought into primary schools to teach children how to work together as well in that environment. Sort of built up my skills on multi-sports skills. Did like the Association for PE, supporting and delivering PE in school sport. So done one of them. Once I was in like GCSE level and then did my sort of A levels within PE. I then wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do at that stage. Did I want to go straight to uni? Did I want to go and do an apprenticeship? I thought I wanted to do an apprenticeship to start with because I could earn what I learned. And I think that was really interesting because I worked within sport, and it was like a sports development level 3 apprenticeship. So I worked at a sixth form college for a couple of years doing my apprenticeship and working there as part of the apprenticeship. And that was really interesting because working in that environment where I'm working with 16 to 18 year olds, you know, some people think, oh, that's a big challenge. But I mean, to be honest, I was only a couple of years older than them. At the time, I would have been about 20, I think, at that time.
It's a brave move.
Yeah, it's a very brave move. Luckily, I looked older than what I was, so that kind of helped. And that was really good because they were a really nice bunch of children there. I think that's really important. I think the environment I was in giving them different opportunities to shine in sports. So sports like enrichment, they did to play like table tennis. There'll be opportunities for them to play different sports, competitive sports as well, sports competitions, sports festivals, things like that. And that's when I really thought, because obviously 16 to 18 is like a massive drop off for PE and school sport, and wanting to just do anything that is active,
especially for girls as well.
Yeah, it's a massive drop, and I think reasons for that were, you know, the pressures of exams, doing their A levels, pressure from parents for them to want to study all the time. I think some of them get part-time jobs, things like that. So there's you know, PE and being active was sort of at the bottom of their list of priorities. And I thought for that moment, you know, we want to create these opportunities for them to shine. I think with PE, what I really want to get out is having children and young adults and young people actually have that lifelong enjoyment of PE and sport. I think if they're stopping when they're 16 to 18, that's it. Their 16 years are done now with that. And I think that's where I really wanted to think, right, I want to go into teaching. Because I wanted to go start in primary school and really give them the opportunities and the memories and that engagement and lifelong enjoyment of PE from there. So if I can hit them at that age, getting them engaged within PE, then they can move up and actually start to enjoy it in secondary school, start to enjoy it if they go to college or sixth form, go enjoy it in uni. So like, say uni's like massive for sport, because you get so many people involved in that. But then if they spent 2 years not doing anything, are they going to go straight into doing it when they're in uni? And I think that's what I was saying about getting that lifelong enjoyment is really hitting home in primary school. Can we get them to enjoy it?
It's lifelong enjoyment of learning as well, not just in the sense of I just want to learn PE, but it's a lifelong enjoyment of learning, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think you learn all the time. Do you know what I mean? So you're learning from when you're born, from where you are right now, and I think even if you're not in school right now, you're always learning. And I think that's the key thing as well, from that point of view.
How do you look after well-being is a massive thing in schools now? How do you look after your own health?
Just like to switch off from work when I go home. I think that's important. No emails or things like that. So I think those hours are very precious. So I think you want to just relax and just get your mindset ready, and go to bed at a sensible time. So then you wake up, you're refreshed. You know, drinking plenty of water, eating healthy, staying as active as possible, whether you're going to the gym, whether you're going on a run on the road, something like that, which is, for me, just keeps me tuning, keeps me going, and then I can wake up, feel refreshed for the start of the day. That's really important.
And what's your favourite thing to do outside of school?
Let's go watch football.
Yeah,
watch the football team. Such a big Chelsea fan, so go into those games, go out and see friends, so socialise as much as possible, and then just go really enjoy life as much as possible. Go on adventures and do like different experiences. So I've done like Camp America a few years ago. And that was really good, spending the summer out in the States, in New York, so it was really, really fun to do that. So working as a sports specialist, so it's good to work with American children as well and get to meet different people out there and just sort of seeing the sights and just sort of open up my mind to new opportunities. I think that's the main thing.
Fabulous. Alex, it's been such a pleasure having you and sharing your thoughts, insights and experiences on education and primary school teaching, and in particular on PE and well-being, because it's such an important thing in life that is so necessary, and it is lifelong. It is about creating those memories, those experiences for people, whether they're 5 years old or 50 years old. The narrative and the importance is still the same, because our health is so powerful to us. Without it, we're complete.
Absolutely. And there's to add on as well with well-being. You know, there was an interesting thing I saw the other day. Actually, it was on Twitter. One of the like primary school PE, I think it was primary PE. Their Twitter account put out a question. It was, should PE be part of the well-being program? And there's quite a lot of interesting responses, because I think sometimes PE is not always seen as, in some schools, not as one of the core subjects. When it probably should be, because, like say, it's well-being. I think if there's put on the well-being program, the fact was, would it be seen as more of a core subject? So I'll sort of leave you with that thought. And we can sort of debate about it and whether whether it should be or not.
Fantastic. Right. So before we head out, a couple of quick fire round questions to end the interview. Favorite hobby?
Favorite hobby? Watching football.
Favorite holiday destination?
New York.
Last book that you're currently reading, or the book that you've last read?
I think, what was it? Autobiography. I think it was one of Stephen Gerrard's autobiographies I read. That was quite good.
Most overused phrase in school?
Most overused phrase? Probably, can you listen please? Can you turn around? Can you stop talking? Okay, that's probably one of those ones.
Okay, amazing. If you became the head teacher of a brand new school and you started from complete scratch, what are the 3 most important priorities for you to transform the school or to make the school great?
Sense of community. So having 3 key values they want to sort of embed in the whole school. Make PE one of the core subjects. And have maybe some sort of insight days for children, so like sort of careers or enterprise days where they can start to work on their skills and sort of see where they want to go in life as well. That's quite important.
Fab. And if you were to advise any aspiring teachers out there or existing teachers who really want to make a memorable impact on the lives of thousands of children or hundreds of children, what would you say to them? What would be a parting words of advice?
Get to know the kids. Get to know. Go straight in. Just get to know them. Really embed yourself within a school. Just give or trust your teaching your abilities, and then just really plan the best and most fun, engaging lessons. And I think all the children will respond to that. If they can see that, they'll enjoy it.
Alex, it's absolutely sensational having you. Thank you so much for coming down, and we look forward to many more conversations in the future.
Brilliant, thank you.